It's always Friday at TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard, North Holland, across from the shopping center in Metairie. The salads, the grilled chicken, yeah man. The sandwiches, you gotta be kidding me. And oh my, are you hungry? If you are now, you will be. Great deals for lunch, $6.99, $9.99. You got it, pick your items. It's always great. It's always Friday at TGI Fridays here in Metairie. For this version of sportsNOLAtv, a pleasant good evening. Ken Trahan, always a pleasure to have you with us as we break down another big football weekend. Professional, college, high school, you name it, we'll do it. And we'll do so with our outstanding analysts, including the former New Orleans Saint wide receiver, the trivia master, Torrance Small. Terrence, it's good to have you with us.
Hey, glad to be back, Ken. Glad to be back one and all. Hey, great football all weekend from high school to the pros. I tell you, great weekend.
And you watched all of it. Brian Alley Walsh, of course, our par excellence writer, award-winning Pro Football's writer, national award winner from sportsNOLA.com, I might add. Congratulations to the man, Brian.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. I've heard him called a lot of things before, but never a trivia master.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
He must have been good. He's showing up all the time on our trivia questions.
Right. Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive. Try to keep his name alive here. That's what we're doing. And of course, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, as good as it gets, our good and great friend, the man, the Hall man, Ricky Jackson. Ricky.
I'll tell you what, it's always a pleasure, man. Anytime the Saints win, Tulane win, and LSU win, it's always great for the city, great for this state. So I'm always happy.
It's a golden triangle. It was a wonderful weekend, and obviously a lot to talk about. It's all good news this week, and we'll do it coming up next. When we return, you can check out highlights of the Saints and the Buccaneers on a strange day in Tampa Bay when sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie, and right here on WHNO Channel 20. Aaron Hartley's been a clutch kicker for the Saints in big games. Just go back to that 2009 season and the postseason to understand that. Ken Trahan and the crew, sportsNOLAtv from TGI Fridays in Metairie, Veterans at North Holland. They got great food here, and 57 has great food too. Smoked sausage, the man. Ricky Jackson smoked sausage, there it is. Now that's the real link, okay? Look at that picture. He doesn't look any different today, does he, Brian? He looks exactly the same. Huh?
Get them while they're hot.
He hasn't changed at all, has he? Get them while they're hot.
Get them while they're hot.
Get 'em while they're hot.
It's about time he brought them to the set, that's for sure.
Yeah, because he's not getting them back. All right, we took care of Ricky, and we love Ricky. sportsNOLAtv continues. Saints win the game 16-14. Improbable victory given the circumstances. So many things that they did wrong that should have cost them the game. But Brian, why did the Saints end up winning this football game?
Number 9.
Number 9?
It gets
Number
down
9?
to, one, they made a bonehead move. I think a club like Tampa Bay that needs a victory in the worst way. I still don't think even if they kick that field goal, they're going to keep the Saints out of the end zone anyway with number 9 in control. You gave him too much time. Doesn't matter what he does for the previous 58 minutes, Kenny. He's always going to find a way to win.
Well, and you're correct on that. But let's look at this game. Tampa did do, the Saints did do their part with number 9 as far as making a field goal, getting us down to get a field goal. But let's look at Tampa. Man, coaching, players did not show up. Undisciplined, wrong calls. I think they somewhat gave the game away as well as the Saints taking the game away.
I know you feel strongly about that, Rick.
Yeah, and I tell you what, man, it's like high school. Those guys played yesterday, man. Some of the, like Terrence said, the discipline that they did. I would have been fighting some of them guys. Those guys, they wouldn't do that if I was playing today.
You wouldn't tolerate it, and I understand that. Listen, the Saints for 59 minutes offensively were atrocious. In the red zone, they were pitiful. But when it mattered, their offense performed. But that's because their defense gave them a chance. And Brian, that's the story thus far this season. The Saints are tied for 5th in the league and the fewest points allowed through 2 games, not counting the Monday night game. What a step forward that is. The only concern is the injuries moving forward.
Absolutely. You take away the pick 6 that Mason Foster scored yesterday, and they've given up 24 points in 2 games. I think they were allowing 440 yards a game last year on defense. It's down to 320. Now, I know it's only 2 games, but man, I love that amoeba look on 3rd down, and they put 7 players upright. Ricky, you'd have looked good in that stance.
Bunch of guys standing around. You don't
Yeah.
know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Listen, Torrance, they're 2-0. There's 8 teams 2-0 so far. And when Peyton's been 2-0 previously, good things have happened. 2006 went to the NFC Championship game. 2009 won the Super Bowl. And then 2010, they won 11 games. So that's pretty good numbers to draw upon to be 2-0.
Yes, as an NFL team, you want to start off fast. But one thing we need to know, this is a long season, and we like to take the seasons by quarter. First quarter right now, we're 2-0. We have a chance to come out of this thing 4-0, or at least 3-1. And that's a great start. And if I think they can do that, those are the type of things that get you in the playoffs. Because the number one thing is first to win a division. They won their first 2 division games. That was big. Next is just try to win your division, get in the playoffs, and anything can happen after that.
Ricky, you talked about Tampa Bay's lack of discipline. Their players were just completely undisciplined. They stuck it to themselves. Their coaching left a lot to be desired. On that last possession for Tampa Bay, it's 4th and 2. You got 3 choices. You can punt the football, drive them back, try the long field goal on a wet field, or go for it in that situation. I thought the worst thing they could do was try the field goal, and that's what they did. Personally, I would have gone for it. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if you got a good kicker who you can depend on, you always go for it. But giving, Coach Payton, the way he called the plays and giving Drew Brees the ball back anywhere there, and when you ain't got nothing but a 1-point lead, they're going to be trouble for you. They're going to find a way to get those 3 points. So, I mean, you should have did something to try to, get them where they had a long field to go. And if you got a great kicker, you kick it. But, I mean, evidently they don't have a great kicker.
Well, I thought, for me, I thought they should have punted. They've been playing great defense all game. The Saints haven't been moving the ball consistently on them. I thought they should have punted the ball. I think the worst thing could happen, they would have started on the 20 without any timeouts and take your chances with Drew Brees, which they did, but they gave him an opportunity on the short side of the field.
Everybody that listens to me on radio and hears me here knows I've been very fair to Mark Ingram, and I want to give him every opportunity to succeed. And I'm the one that stated all along that give this guy a full season, let's see what he can do. At this point, I'm not sure he deserves a full season. Clearly, this guy just is not performing under any circumstances. He has no wiggle, he has no speed, he has no quicks, he has no elusiveness, he doesn't have vision, and he doesn't figure in the passing game. So, Brian, how long before Sean Payton pulls the plug?
Oh, I don't know. Sean is the kind of coach that's going to stay with the guy as long as he produces. He's going to give them that opportunity. I think it could happen as soon as this week. He's had 2 opportunities now in critical situations, and Mark Ingram has not produced. So, and Kenny, I agree with you totally. I'm of the ilk, you give the ball to a Darren Sproles or a Pierre Thomas. Pierre Thomas is money in the bank. He's going to find a way to get a tough yard or 2, and Mark Ingram has not shown that ability yet.
Well, you got to make people miss, and then after contact, you got to make a yard or 2, and he doesn't do that. Goal line situations, they keep giving him the football, and when he gets hit, he goes down right where he's hit. As a running back, when you get your shoulders squared, Ricky, and you know this, you absorb the contact, even you'd give a half yard to a yard to a powerful running back, right?
Yeah, I mean, you used to Earl Cameron and, Herschel Walker, those guys. They're looking for that one-on-one situation where they can show you their power. Even Bo Jackson, and like he's saying, well, Mark just stop his feet when he get contact. And that's something he's young, he got to learn. And if they stick with him, he got good running back coaches, I think that sooner or later somebody will get him and teach him, how to keep his feet going.
Well, he had a false start in the game. He tried to bounce one outside, which is not his game at all. He couldn't make a yard. I could go on and on, Torrance, and I know we've been more than fair to him here, and we want to give the guy a chance, but he wasn't worth the investment. That's obvious.
No, this team is not built for Mark Ingram. One thing about Mark Ingram, when he comes in the game, everybody knows what he's going to do. He's either going to run the ball or it will be a fake with a bootleg with it,
I get that. I keep hearing that. But every primary running back in the game, when he's in the game, is a primary focus. But they find a way to make plays. This guy does not, under any circumstances.
Well, he's not making plays.
He doesn't make plays. When has he made a play?
He doesn't make
He's been
plays.
here
He
3
doesn't
years.
make plays. I've been saying we should have got rid of him instead of Ivory.
Back with more on sportsNOLAtv in just a moment here on WHNO. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. It's a good one. Jimmy Graham had 10 catches for a career-high 179 yards in Sunday's win at Tampa Bay. Our question, who holds the Saints record for the most receiving yards in a game? Is it A, Joe Horn, B, Torrance Small, C, Marcus Colston, D, Wes Chandler, or E, Ricky Jackson? No, I just threw that in there. You got 4 choices, Horn Small, Colston Chandler. That's your sportsNOLA.com trivia question. Give it some thought. We'll come back with the answer a little bit later on. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, TGI Fridays in Metairie. Thanks to Ronnie Bouvier and his crew for having us here today. It was an interesting day in the NFL, so let's take a trip around the league and check out the results from week 2. Of course, the Thursday night special, New England edging the Jets, ho-hum game, right? Atlanta jumped out big, held on to beat the Rams. Baltimore, ho-hum game. They had to struggle to beat Cleveland at home in their home opener. What a win for E.J. Manuel in Buffalo over Carolina, who's now lost 2 heartbreakers. And the Bears pull one out late. Cutler with a big touchdown pass, beat the Vikings by 1. Aaron Rodgers scintillating, beat Washington, and what of RG3? Houston, overtime, second come-from-behind win, beat Tennessee by 6. Schaub a touchdown to win it. How about the Dolphins? They're 2-0, and they're coming here. Good win over the Indianapolis Colts. Kansas City's 2-0. Andy Reid makes a difference. They beat Dallas by 1. San Diego went up to Philadelphia. Bad clock management by Chip Kelly late in this game. That's college stuff. Won't work in the NFL. And San Diego wins the game. Arizona, they're coming here this week, and they played well, and they beat Detroit by 4. The Denver Broncos, does anyone look better in this league thus far? Manning Bowl goes to Peyton once again, 3rd time that's happened. The battle of the bad, Oakland was not as bad as Jacksonville. Seattle crushed San Francisco. Who's going to beat them on their home turf? And Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, the Monday night special. Brian, as you look around the league and you see these results, anything in particular that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, the 3 quarterbacks that stole the show last year, Colin Kaepernick, RG3, and Russell Wilson. They've kind of come back down to earth a little bit. This is what happens when a league gets film and tape on players. They learn how to deal with them better. I think we're going to see that continue through the year with the way they've handled those 3 quarterbacks.
George?
Well, I like to say the Cleveland and Dallas game. Andy Reid is doing a great job over there with Kansas City right now. They're winning bowl games. They're up 2-0 right now. They're playing well. Great defense. They always had a pretty good defense. He just added some offense with Alex Smith over there. Those guys have some playmakers on the outside, and they're showing right now they're 2-0.
Ricky?
I tell you, my whole thing is the way that these guys got to make adjustment to the rules now, and the hitting going on and hitting in the head, they're not going to let that happen. And a lot of these teams is really not making an adjustment to the hit.
What team most impressed you that you saw over the weekend? Anybody in particular?
Well, I mean, I like Denver. I mean, I really like what Peyton doing up there, and he's making sure that those receivers get the ball and they're getting a chance to run after the catch. And I really like what Denver doing.
I agree with you, but for me, it's clearly Seattle. When you do what you do to San Francisco, not once but twice in 2 years on your home turf, they don't score a touchdown against this team. That defense is suffocating. And as I mentioned earlier, on that field, who's going to beat that team? If you want to beat Seattle, you're going to have to get them away from home in the playoffs, I guarantee you, because you won't beat them otherwise. Now, let's take a look at the 2 weeks at the undefeated teams and the teams who haven't won, the good and the bad, through 2 weeks. The 2-0 teams, 8 of those, New Orleans, Chicago, Denver, Houston, Kansas City, Miami, New England, and Seattle. The Saints play a few of those in the next couple of weeks, by the way. And then Division 2 teams, I call them. You know, you got Division 1 and Division 2, right? This is the Division 2. This is FCS, FBS, right? It's Carolina, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Minnesota, the Giants, Tampa Bay, Washington, and then the loser of the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game. So, Brian, as you look at that, any surprises about the 2-0s or the 0-2s in your mind?
Well, the 2-0 team to me is New England, and they've got Tampa coming to them this week. Obviously, Brady is missing a lot of big playmakers on his offense. But I'll tell you what, and we've seen it on Thursday night, 5 days ago, when he lost his cool, and I'm saying Tom Terrific looked like Tom Terrible. For a guy like him, and I'm thinking of all of the outstanding quarterbacks in this league, I don't think Drew Brees would have acted that way. I don't think Peyton Manning would have acted that way. I know we've seen Eli and Peyton kind of do some things, but Tom Brady needs to get it together. He could have his streak of 50 consecutive games with one touchdown broken this Sunday at Gillette Stadium. You watch what Tampa does to them.
Good call there. The team, the 0-2 team, I like to say, Minnesota Vikings. They've been playing some tough. These 2 games they had so far, they were in them. They had the lead. They had opportunity to win and gave them up. I think this is a pretty good team. They made the playoffs last year. Adrian Peterson is doing well. Ponder is doing pretty good this year as well. Got some new weapons out there to work with. But I'm just a little disappointed that they weren't able to pull out at least one of these games playing them tight.
Ricky, any 2-0 or 0-2 teams stand out to you?
Well, I mean, I have to look at our team because we 2-0, and I tell you what, a lot of people, they didn't give us, the win and stuff yesterday, and we found a way to pull it out, and that's what they did the Super Bowl year. One thing about the Saints is when they pull games out, they get the momentum going and they keep them going, and that's what I like about them.
And for me, it's Carolina. They're 0-2, but look at how they've lost. They lost in the last quarter to Seattle, a team they shut down the whole game, and then they lost a heartbreaker at Buffalo by 1. That's a much improved team despite the fact that they're 0-2. Let's take a look at the standings as we speak in the NFC South. The Saints are not only 2-0 and on top, but they've got 2 division wins. They're 1 clear of the Falcons, who beat the Rams, and 2 clear of both the Panthers and the Buccaneers. So, Brian, that's a very good place to be, heading home for a couple of games.
Absolutely. There's no reason that the Saints should not be 4-0 after the first quarter of the season. Atlanta, their victory against St. Louis yesterday was a little misleading. They were up big, and then they had to hold on for a 7-point win.
Well, it's the seasons of quarters, as I alluded to earlier. Seasons of quarters. We're already halfway in this quarter right here with 2 wins. If we can get 3, at least 3, that'd be great start for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, like Terrence said, you got 4 quarters, and we're halfway through one of them. But I like to see us go 4-0 in this quarter. And so, you get enough wins early, you can rest a little bit at the end.
All about offensive line play improving, Drew Brees playing like Drew Brees, and the defense having enough players to be on the field as they move forward to take on Arizona, followed by Miami at home. When we return in just a moment, is it good or bad to take points off the board? In uniform fashion, that's our hot seat topic when we continue in just a moment from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie, here on WHNO Channel 20. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. Yeah, he's in it again. Who holds the Saints record for most receiving yards in a game? Is it Joe Horn, Torrance Small, Marcus Colston, or Wes Chandler? Some obvious choices. Is it an obvious answer? And it's Wes Chandler. And I remember the game very well, 1979 against the Falcons, 205 yards. Chandler on the way to the Pro Bowl. Torrance Small had the only other 200-yard game in franchise history in 1994 against Denver. That's why he was watching the game yesterday, and he was sitting there saying, "Don't throw it to Jimmy. Don't throw it to Jimmy. I want to keep that mark." And Jimmy only got 2 balls in the second half, so Torrance, you're still second all time, dude.
I'll take it.
All right, I thought you might. Yeah. TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. So glad you've joined us. Ken Trahan with you, and it is time now for our Hot Seat segment. And our Hot Seat is brought to you by Pride Services, Louisiana's AC and heating experts. Since 1984, Pride Services has been delivering quality service the first time. At Pride Services, we'll fix it right today. Get out of a hot seat and call Pride Services today. Our hot seat topic today. Should you take points off the board? Generally speaking, should you take points off the board or leave them on the board if they've already been scored? Brian Alley Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. Generally speaking, well, before I get into this, if I eat Ricky's sausage, I will be on the hot seat. Believe me. All right, that said, generally speaking, I would say, no, you don't take points off the board. But when you've got Sean Payton and Drew Brees and an offense that is prolific like the Saints have, and you need 1 yard to get one play, I say take the points off the board. You can stick a dagger in Tampa Bay's heart with a touchdown in that next play. The problem I have, Dr. Trahan, is this. I did not like the play call, just like I didn't like the play call the week before on a 4th and 1 when they handed the ball to Ingram. Now look, every time, and so I'm going to go back. No, I would go ahead and take the points off the board. In answer to your question, I would take the points off and roll with it. But I would also not give the ball to Mark Ingram on 4th and short. So I draw the line there. But there are situations where you can take points off the board. And if that club is going to reach its aspirations, and that's to win a Super Bowl, you have got to score in that situation. I put the blame not on Sean Payton. He's showing confidence in his team. I put the blame on Mark Ingram and an offensive line that didn't get the proper read blocks to get him in the end zone. So that's my answer.
Well, let us ask you this.
Yes.
Again, will you take the points or not take the points? Because you started off.
I would definitely take the points off the board in that situation and go for a touchdown.
I didn't ask you about the situation.
Oh, well,
Actually, you take points off the board.
No, you can't make it a carte blanche rule.
I will not take the points off the board. I take 3 points. Once these points get on the board, keep them up there. They're hard to come by. You never know what happened late in the game. And by the way, to your point, if you look at Sean Payton's record, he's 7 times he had a 4th and 1, 4th and goal to try to get in the end zone. Only 1 time he was successful. 1 time. And to your point, to help you out, Mark, it was the wrong play to call, but anything, do not take points off the board. I know we have a great offense. I know we have a great quarterback and all, but do not take points off the board. As you see, it hurt us yesterday, but good thing we came back. We were able to come back.
I'll tell you what, by them getting the penalty, they got a chance to get a little closer to the goal line. And those offensive linemen, I would have took the points off the board too, because we need an inch or half a yard. Those offensive linemen got to at least maintain their block or sustain their block. And you got to have a powerful enough running back to go through there and get that inch or get over the top. And that's what I fault Ingram for. I mean, he got to leap over the top right there. He got to go in there with some force. He went in there more like tiptoeing and stuff. And coach can't teach that. That's something that he got to do. But I would have took the points off the board. We got the best coach in football, and he know what he's doing. And he called the right play. We just didn't execute the play. And that's what I take it as. The guys got to go out there and do their job. They let too many guys penetrate in the backfield, and one problem that Mark Ingram had, when he sees penetration, he stops. And that's the only problem that he has. And that's been the problem with him since he's been running the ball. Every time somebody penetrates the line of scrimmage, he kind of give up.
This is. We'll go back to the play selections again. I found it very interesting that every play that they ran on the ground in that situation, they went to the left side. The left side is Charles Brown. The left side is Grubbs, and then on the right side you've got Jari Evans, who's had some trouble holding on to his own mitts this early in the season. You've got a much stronger side than the right side, in my opinion, and they went left in each of those times with Thomas and with Ingram twice. I didn't like the play selection. I take the points off the board anytime.
All right. Time to render a judgment here. You guys have had your say, and that's great. Would you take the points off the board in that situation? Absolutely. I wouldn't have a problem with it whatsoever. I agree with what's been stated previously. My problem was, A, the play they called, B, who they gave the ball to, and C, the execution, which was very poor. But I go back to before that. The entire sequence of plays, in my mind, was wrong. And I love Sean Payton, and he's a great play caller, but not on that series. On first down from inside the 1 yard line, you play fake and try to throw the football. You're inside the 1 yard line based on the spot after Graham's catch. Play fake didn't work. Incomplete pass. Second down, you run Mark Ingram wide. He loses 2 yards. Did you like that call? Then on third down, Pierre Thomas gets you some yardage back to the 1, and then, of course, the penalty. And if you can't make a yard or less in that situation, you don't deserve to win. That said, they never do, as Torrance said. He was correct. They're now 1 for 7 on 4th and 1 in those situations. Deuce McAllister tweeted during the game, and I loved it. Deuce said, I love the call by SP, Sean Payton. It's a one-on-one battle. You got to get low and find a way to get a yard. I agree with Deuce, but you got to consider who was carrying the ball. As far as taking points off the board, that's Sean Payton. That's what he does. He's aggressive by nature. His teams feed off of that. They love him for it, and they've won because of it. I have no problem with the aggressive nature of their calls. I think each situation is individual. Therefore, I say that, yes, in certain situations, not uniformly, not generally, you do take points off the board. It depends on the circumstance. It depends on the team. It depends on the situation. And it depends on, oh, by the way, who's carrying the football. And oh, by the way, you ought to be able to make a yard when you're going against 10 men and you have 11. Just saying. sportsNOLAtv continues in just a moment. We'll talk college football, LSU and Tulane win, prep football as well, here at TGI Fridays on WHNO. Call me a shill if you will. It's a great site, sportsNOLA.com. Check it out. I know you will enjoy it with an outstanding group of contributors, including Brian, who do an excellent job every day at sportsNOLA.com. Doing an excellent job this past weekend, LSU and Tulane. Starting with the Tigers, they move up to number 6 in the national polls by virtue of another convincing win, 45-13 over Kent State. Offense had their way in this game. Balanced offensive line, I formation, old-fashioned football, and there's Jeremy Hill. You talk about a hole, you talk about an NFL back. That's as easy as it gets. LSU all over Kent State early on, doing whatever they wanted on offense, and Hill has quite a future. And if you don't do it running, you do it passing. Mettenberger, patient. Just get it up there for a guy with big paws and a big vertical, and Jarvis Landry for the score. And Brian, again, this passing game has been the real story of the LSU season thus far.
Well, I tell you what, Mettenberger, you got me saying it now, T. Mettenberger has just come into his own under Cam Cameron. He looks like almost a finished product at this stage. But you know what, Kenny, I want to see, I'm tired of the preliminaries. I want to see the rumble in the jungle this Saturday against Auburn, and then we'll have a better, I thought what Les Miles said, the most telling thing, Kenny, was he said, in a couple of SEC games, we'll have a better idea where this team stands, and I agree with him wholeheartedly.
Terrence McGee, really good again behind Jeremy Hill. This offense has some pop, Torrance. It's something we haven't seen in a while.
Well, one thing about LSU, they always have talent. The thing is putting it all together, and this year they're putting it all together right now. But the one thing I think they're struggling a little bit is defense. They have a lot of young players. They had to replace, 8 players that went to the pros this past, in the NFL draft this past summer. And hopefully these young guys will start picking it up, because now they're about to start getting to the SEC battle.
Ricky, they have talent on defense. It's young. We're going to start finding out when you start playing all these SEC games. Auburn, followed by Georgia, followed by Mississippi State, followed by Florida in succession. It's the big leagues now.
Right. I mean, the next 4 games are going to tell the story. I mean, they played a couple pickup games. I wish they would have put Tulane on the schedule instead of Kent State and played Tulane. I mean, but, you know, the next 4 games they got, you're going to be able to tell what kind of season they're going to have. And going down to Georgia, playing those teams, they got some hard games coming up.
What's the ceiling for this team, Brian? I said before it started, I thought they could win 10 games, and people thought I was nuts. At least some did, but I certainly stand by that comment.
Oh, I think so too. And I'll tell you what, you know, if the offense continues to improve, and if they allow the defense to catch up and get a little bit more mature as these SEC games are played, who knows? They're going to play at Alabama late in the season, and that could come down to maybe a national championship type format right there. So there is no ceiling. I think the ceiling is the limit for this club.
There's two big games for LSU.
Yeah.
It's at Georgia in 2 weeks, and then it's Alabama, of course, later in the season at Alabama. So those are the two big games in my mind, because I think they're going to beat the other opponents, and I think Ole Miss will be a real test for LSU. They're a good football team. Hugh Freeze is doing a great job, and their offense is very good. And what about Mac Brown at Texas?
Ooh.
How much longer? And that is getting pretty ugly there. Not so ugly for Tulane, a bit uglier for Louisiana Tech in Ruston Joe Aye Stadium on Thursday night. Wave coming out and Tech getting started. Long run here. Things weren't looking good early on because of this, but well, they kept them out of the end zone, and that was huge on this play. This was a very ugly first half, Brian, in this game. I mean, very ugly first half throughout the course of this half on the part of both teams. I think just banks in there. But Tulane kept themselves right in, it gave themselves a chance, and then Montana makes a nice throw to Grant. That kid's got an NFL future.
He sure does. And you know what I liked about this game? I know people are going to say that Tulane beat an inferior opponent, but Kenny, you know what? They're not that far along. They need to get wins like this. Even as poorly as they played against an inferior opponent in La Tech, they came away with the win, and they're 2-1, and that's really all that counts.
Well, they had some really good defensive pressure in this game, too. Their defensive front played really well. Their defensive line, Torrance, it's the best they've played. It's kind of the way Coach Johnson thought they'd play.
Yes, one thing about defense, if they don't score, they can't win. And if you can keep a team out of the end zone, and your offense, which they put up some points Saturday, they have an opportunity. They get themselves an opportunity. That's what happened this weekend. They won a game.
South Alabama beat Western Kentucky. Ricky, maybe they're not so bad. Tulane was terrible in the first half against them, but they shut South Alabama down in the second half, and they shut down Tech for a whole game. So maybe this defense is going to give them a chance to win games.
Well, and not only that, I think that Coach needs one more good year recruiting. I mean, I think that, after he get one more good class in there, you'll go to seeing Tulane pick it up and get to play with the big boys.
Well, of course, high school football is a passion of ours as well, and why not? It doesn't get any better than in Louisiana and in the New Orleans area. And Carr and St. Augustine, what a matchup. A couple of you guys were there. Speedy Noel, one of the highest sought-after recruits in the Deep South. Easy touchdown, well blocked, and he does his little thing. And Carr jumps on top of this one. Then there's the #1 player in the nation, Leonard Fournette. Will play out of the backfield. Makes a guy miss badly. Then watch the speed with guys closing on him. Torrance, he just pulls away from him. And this kid is some impressive. I don't like that, but he is some impressive.
Oh, I was at the game, and I was very shocked to see the speed that he has at his size.
And
great vision.
And then Ricky Speedy Noel, the touchdown pass. He does it with his arm, does it with his legs. Some player, isn't he?
I tell you what, man, I was at the game too, and I was standing there on the sideline, just looking at the speed that those guys got. Both of those guys, I mean, you're going to see them in the NFL one day.
Speaking of Speedy Noel, our sportsNOLA.com, Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club, WGSO 990 AM, prep player of the week for week 2 is none other than Devontae Speedy Noel of Edna Carr. We just call him athlete / plays everywhere. Passing 153 yards, rushing 81 yards, caught 2 balls for 20 yards, 4 touchdowns in the game, 2 passing, 2 rushing. Special player, nice young man too, by the way. You can watch him on Prep Recruiting Insider this week with the Edna Carr players with Renee Nato and Ro Brown on that show. And obviously, this kid's really good, Brian. And LSU's prime for Leonard Fournette, they're prime for Speedy Noel, prime for Malachi Dupre. They get those 3 from New Orleans. They've had a really good recruiting season.
That would be a banner year. When you think about the talent that was assembled at Tad Gormley for that game, it was incredible.
And of course, you got such good teams here. John Curtis lost to St. Thomas Aquinas at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But Curtis is still good, and they still play Edna Carr and St. Augustine. Those are 2 games you probably want to see too, Torrance.
Yes, I had the opportunity to go and see Curtis in the Dome as well. I left the St. Carr game. Yes, I was. I love high school football. I had the opportunity there to go see. Whenever a team from Florida comes down and play in the Dome, I definitely try to make my way there.
Those Florida teams aren't so bad, right, Rick?
No, I mean, I'm from Florida, and we got the best football in the world down there.
Repeat that again.
Next to Louisiana, you mean, right?
I mean, Florida, St. Thomas, they got 8, 9, 10 guys going to major college, so they rank pretty high.
Yeah.
Did Pahokee ever play St. Thomas Aquinas?
No, they're too big for us.
There you go. 7A school. What am I going to tell you? All right, that leads us to our first NBC Prep Showcase, which continues this weekend. Speaking of John Curtis, they will be taking on East St. John, the Wildcats, You can watch it Saturday at noon from reserve. John Curtis and East St. John. Phil Banco's got Xavier Lewis, an LSU commitment, on his team. So this is another game with good athletes. I'd hate to play Curtis off of a loss. Brian, that's not a really good time to play the Patriots.
You know, JT immediately turned his focus to that game. You noticed that in some of his post-game comments. And I guess so when you lose 14 points to the number 3 ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
But that's a game that they were going to have to bounce back from.
Yeah, if anybody's better than STA out of Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah.
I'd like to see them because I don't think there's anyone better in the country this season. We'll take a timeout here. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look ahead to the Saints and the Arizona Cardinals in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome as Sports NOLA TV continues from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie on WHNO Channel 20. TGI Fridays, 2 locations here at 3330 Veterans in Metairie, also at 1201 Manhattan in Harvey. Great food, drinks, steaks, appetizers, and more. Paired up specials for lunch. Check it all out at TGI Fridays. In here, it's always Fridays. And we have some other great shows on WHNO, including PRI, Prep Recruiting Insider, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Renee Nato, Road Brown with the latest in recruiting, and the car will be with them coming up this week, and you won't want to miss that. And, of course, our newest show, the John Forcade Show, Thursday, 6 p.m. John joined by the analyst Mike Detillier, who does a great job getting you ready for the football weekend. Thursdays at 6, the John Forcade Show, WHNO, Channel 20. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, the Saints and the Cardinals noon in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Okay, Brian, the Cardinals have played pretty well. They're 1-1, but they played well, and Tyrann Mathieu is making plays at the NFL level. Surprised?
And so is Patrick Peterson, Kenny. Patrick
we knew that already.
Yeah, Patrick caught a pass and threw a pass in the win over Detroit. So I like the Saints by 10 to 12 points.
Torrance?
Oh, I like the Saints in this one as well. I think they can, I'll say 7 points I give us this one.
Okay, Ricky, what do you think?
I tell you what, man, our coach said that he didn't coach a great game, but I tell you, anytime the Saints win, I love it. But I think that it's time to blow a team out. I mean, I'm looking for 14 points or better.
I don't see that happening with the injury problems the Saints have, but I do see them winning the game competitive. I think the Cardinals are a pretty solid team, so it will be fun to watch. Let's take a look at the upcoming Saints schedule. You got the Cardinals in town, and then the Dolphins in town for a Monday night affair, and the Dolphins look much improved. Then a very tough stretch at Chicago and at New England. That is tough stuff, Ryan. Interesting schedule.
Yeah, and you know, they've always had trouble up at Chicago, and New England will probably, Brady will get his play toys back for the Saints probably in a month. So, yeah, they've got to win at least 2, and I see them winning 3 of these games.
Well, the thing is, we're still in the first quarter, guys. We can go 4-0 in this first quarter, and we start off with Chicago and New England in the second quarter. Hey, we don't know what's going to happen, but we still have control of this quarter, and that's the quarter we have to take care of.
And I mean, and like you said, going up to New England, we always play good against those teams. Chicago's going to give us a little battle, but, you know, as long as we be 3-1, you know, 4-1 after the first 5 games, that's a good record.
I think Saints need to be 6-2. They get to 6-2, they can play 500 the rest of the way, and they got 10 wins. It's that simple. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. Thank you. Enjoy being with you. Turn those hands. Thanks for the sausage. For Ricky, for Brian, for Torrance, I'm Ken Trahan. Say thanks for joining us and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. Rounding third and heading home. So long.